Get ready for a journey to the day that would change everyone's lives. Why? What happened on that day? On the 28th of March, in the year 2013, the small border town of Santana do Livramento, located in the state of Rio Grande do Sul, along with its Uruguayan neighbor Rivera, became the stage for a dark event that shook both communities. 3 taxi drivers met a tragic fate at the hands of unknown assailants. Their lifeless bodies were discovered in residential neighborhoods with fatal head wounds, while their work vehicles were found abandoned some distance away from the gruesome discovery. Welcome to the Criminal Chronicles channel. If you're fascinated by inexplicable mysteries and intriguing puzzles, you're in the right place. Welcome to another video filled with sinister enigmas and stories that will captivate you from start to finish. If you love unraveling intriguing cases and diving into mysterious narratives, don't waste any time and join us right now. Subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you won't miss any details of the mysteries we're going to explore together from now on. And of course, if you can give that like right at the beginning of the video, know that it makes all the difference in helping me continue bringing engaging content to you. Let's dive headfirst into another intriguing journey. Let's go. On the 28th of March, in the year 2013, the small border town of Santana do Livramento, located in the state of Rio Grande do Sul, along with its Uruguayan neighbor Rivera, became the stage for a dark event that shook both communities. 3 taxi drivers met a tragic fate at the hands of unknown assailants. Their lifeless bodies were discovered in residential neighborhoods with fatal head wounds, while their work vehicles were found abandoned some distance away from the gruesome discovery. The victims were men with unique stories. Ennio Rolim-Licina, affectionately known as Tito, was a 55-year-old Brazilian citizen who lived in Rivera, but made his living as a freelance driver at the Santana do Livramento bus terminal. His life was closely intertwined with that of his 24-year-old daughter. Tito's body was found on the Uruguayan side of the border, even though his vehicle, a dark green Elba, was discovered on the Brazilian side. Helio Beltrão do Espírito Santo Pinto, a Brazilian born in Santana do Livramento, was 46 years old, married, and a father of 3 daughters. Interestingly, Helio was a military police officer who, after some time, chose to change careers and work as a taxi driver. Márcio Fabiano Magalhães Oliveira, a 33-year-old Uruguayan and a resident of Livramento, was also part of this tragic episode. He left behind 3 children and was found lifeless in the Brazilian city. His work car, a white Gol, was located in the center of Rivera. The tragedy didn't stop there. Just 2 days later, on the 30th of March, 3 more taxi drivers lost their lives in the same cruel manner, but this time in the capital of Rio Grande do Sul, Porto Alegre. Edson Roberto Loureiro Borges, a former state driver who had recently accepted an offer to partner with his brother-in-law in the taxi business, was 49 years old when his life was abruptly cut short. Surprisingly, he had never been a victim of robbery during his career. His death occurred on Altus Street, around 1:40 in the morning. Eduardo Ferreira Raz, 31 years old and the father of a 13-year-old daughter, had faced 15 robberies in just 2 years of service as a taxi driver. His sad journey came to an end on São Geronimo Street in Passo da Areia. Claudio Gomez, a 59-year-old retired gentleman, had taken up the job of a taxi driver to support his children in providing for their grandchildren. He worked exclusively on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday nights. Claudio's body and his taxi were found in the Mario Quintana neighborhood. These tragic deaths sparked a wave of outrage among their fellow professionals, who joined forces in protests and demonstrations in front of the then Governor Tarso Genro's residence. Among the demands presented, the representatives insisted that the police checkpoints should include not only inspections of the drivers, but also of the passengers as an additional security measure. Tarso pledged to explore changes in police operations to reduce nighttime violence in Porto Alegre. On March 31st, the police began distributing photographs of 2 suspects among the taxi drivers and posting them at taxi stands, launching an operation to find those responsible for the deaths of the 6 taxi drivers. Additionally, the police officers from the Homicide and Personal Protection Division had to calm the nerves of the victims' colleagues. On April 2nd, The taxis were subjected to a thorough examination at the robbery department of the Criminal Investigation Division of the state capital. The images captured by surveillance cameras revealed the presence of a young man at the crime scenes, while his fingerprints were unexpectedly found in one of the victim's vehicles. Furthermore, the tracking of cell phones unquestionably confirmed his presence at the crime scenes. The law enforcement authorities, armed with the information gathered from security cameras, managed to identify the suspect in the vicinity of 2 criminal incidents in the city of Porto Alegre. Wearing light-colored pants and a dark coat, he was carrying a suitcase, the contents of which would later prove revealing. On April 13th of the year 2013, the suspect responsible for the deaths of 6 taxi drivers was finally apprehended. The young man, belonging to the middle class and aged 21, was a native of Santana do Livramento, but was captured by the civil police in Porto Alegre, where he resided in the Santa Cecilia neighborhood. During the operation, the police found clothing and a backpack at the location that raised suspicions. Surprisingly, one of the victim's cell phones and a bus ticket from Santana do Livramento to Porto Alegre were also among his belongings. A luminescence test detected traces of blood on Luan's clothing, providing additional evidence for the investigation. With all these discoveries, his identity and the details of the case were made public in a press conference. The individual who terrorized the state of Rio Grande do Sul with a series of murders has been identified as Luan Barcelos da Silva. In his testimony, Luan described his actions after killing 3 taxi drivers in Santana do Livramento, a city located on the border with Uruguay, on the early morning of the 28th of March. After the last murder, Luan stole the victim's cell phone and money and abandoned the vehicle at the crime scene before walking back to his residence. Confronted with the inevitable arrest, he confessed that he couldn't find peace that night. Fear and uncertainty haunted his mind as he knew his luck was running out. On the 29th of March, Luan spent the day at home, contemplating the possibility of committing more crimes. However, he stated that he saw no other alternative, as he still needed money and had no one to turn to, given that he didn't have a bank account. After killing his 6th victim on the 30th of March, Luan took a taxi back home, sitting in the front seat and maintaining a distant conversation with the driver. Although he had ammunition in his pocket, he didn't consider committing another murder at that moment. His only desire was to return to the safety of his home. Sitting next to the driver, he feared that the taxi driver would notice the bloodstains on his clothes and sneakers. Upon arriving home, Luan disposed of the blood-soaked shirt, as well as the 2 stolen cell phones. He washed his pants, sweatshirt and sneakers, had a meal, and used drugs. The next day, he went out to have lunch at a restaurant near his home, determined to get rid of the murder weapon. He went to the Campo da Tuca to buy marijuana and then discarded the weapon. He explained that he didn't exchange the weapon for drugs because he knew that the connection between the murders and himself was already quite clear. During his police statement, Luan revealed that he was behind on the rent for his 2-bedroom apartment, where he lived with a friend. The debt had accumulated to around 1,250 Brazilian reais. Raised by his grandparents in a small town, he had moved to the capital about 2.5 years ago, after being expelled from the army in Porto Alegre. Initially, Luan had managed to find work as a motorcycle courier and a real estate agent at the end of 2012, but he soon found himself unemployed and facing financial difficulties. In March 2013, before the wave of murders, he traveled to Santana do Livramento in the hope of selling a laptop and a camera to get some money. When he couldn't find a buyer, he made the terrible decision to murder and rob taxi drivers. The police described the suspect as a cold and calculating figure who always positioned himself in the back seat of the vehicle and fatally shot the drivers in the head without announcing the robbery. After the execution, he removed the bodies from the cars, took the victims' belongings, and continued to commit crimes in Porto Alegre until he identified his next victim. He only refrained from killing a taxi driver in Santana do Livramento because the driver became suspicious of his intentions and insisted that he sit in the front of the vehicle. Luan also confessed to using the same weapon, a .22 caliber 7-shot revolver, at both crime scenes, but with different types of ammunition. This variation in ammunition initially confused investigators and made it challenging to link the cases. His series of murders, robbery followed by homicide, resulted in a total of 470 Brazilian reais in Santana do Livramento and an additional 400 Brazilian reais in Porto Alegre. After the terrible crimes, the suspect managed to find a job as a computer course salesman for children, although he failed to show up on the first day of work. Luan was later sent to a prison in Santana do Livramento. As a result of his heinous acts, Luan Barcelos da Silva was sentenced to 49 years and 7 months in the criminal court of Santana do Livramento due to the deaths of Helio Beltrao and Marcio Fabiano. Additionally, he received a sentence of 55 years for the murders of Edson Claudio and Eduardo, tried in the first criminal court of Porto Alegre. Finally, he was sentenced to 20 years in prison for the death of Ennio Rolim in Rivera, in the 5th criminal court of Porto Alegre. Adding up all these sentences, Luan was sentenced to a total of 124 years in prison. And thus, we conclude another fascinating dive into the shadows of the world of crimes and mysteries. If you were intrigued by the twists, puzzles, and engaging narratives we explored here on the Criminal Chronicles channel, don't miss the chance to join us on this ongoing journey. Subscribe right now to the channel so you won't miss any electrifying episodes that are yet to come. Each case, every detail meticulously investigated, depends on your support to keep happening. Leave your like because that's what motivates us to continue bringing you quality content and thorough investigations. Comments are also essential. Share your theories, opinions, and ideas. Your participation makes this community even richer and full of energy to unravel the greatest criminal mysteries. Remember, producing videos as engaging as this is a challenge, but with your support, we can continue to explore the stories that stir our investigative instincts. So don't waste any more time. If you're not already part of this passionate community for mysteries and intriguing crimes, click the subscribe button, enable notifications, and leave your mark in the comments and likes. Together, we will uncover the most complex secrets of the criminal underworld. Until the next video, detectives.